Check it out. It seems to be working, so it worked. I come to Lowe's in the morning and sometimes the plants haven't. Oh, this is a mammoth jalapeno and it was just suffering there in the sun, and I just decided to ask how much it would cost, and they ended up charging me only $1. It's got some root bounding, but I mean, it really wouldn't be a huge problem to like fix. So I mean, this is a huge savings. It's a really good deal, so I'm excited. I am living my fairy tale fantasy. This grow bed with all of that cocoa coir, it ended up growing these mushrooms that I guess are local. I had never seen them before. So this is like news to me, and they're uninvited. I didn't tell them to come here, so I don't know what they're doing here, but they're gorgeous. You have to see them. Apparently there are species called Anyway, you ready to see the coolest mushroom shot you've ever seen in your life?
Wow.
So good. The cloning procedure is going about as well as I would have expected. At this point, I have a couple that are finally showing leaves that are new and growing. More than I expected. No noticeable root growth yet that I'm seeing. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it. We'll see. There is some sus behavior going on. Do you see how there's like some healthy mycelium going on here? Well, that shouldn't be exposed. So I think that there's a furry little creature that can't mind his business. We need to create a minefield for this child, for he knows not what he does.
Stop pooping.
Once we've got it all set up, it should last us for as long as the growing season does. I am currently just sectioning off like the areas that I'm thinking of putting some beds down on. Yeah, I'm excited just looking at it. Like, so I'm gonna have, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this huge one back here would be like the hugest 5 ever. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it's gonna be so good. I just don't know how to get slow delivery, so we're gonna have to figure that out. I'm very thankful to see some great new growth on the mandarin plant that I have. This is the aloe vera plant. This plant is overwatered, but we're not talking about that. This banana plant is also really sad. We're not talking about that. What I will talk about is how well the corn, the pumpkins, and the Seminole squash are doing in the no-dig bed. It's surprising how quickly most of them took off. Even the ones I had to replace, they're growing just fine too. Right here. One issue is that this raised bed here, you can kind of see it, this one, it had issues with germination. I don't know if that's because the seeds themselves weren't able to germinate in the conditions of the soil, or if it was that my cat decided to dig up pretty much every single one of them, or the squirrel or the possum or the raccoon got it. I mean, you can't be sure these days. Now to take the time to just plant these seeds. Having the barrier so that the cats can't get in, I think is a really good way for me to secure those seeds in the positions that I put them in, and also make sure that they make it to germinate, which apparently I did something right because now we have germination here. The tomatoes are looking really good, you guys. I don't know if you can see, they seem to be doing just fine in the environment that they are in. Dude, I just finished doing some tree cutting. You can see back here how much I've done. Those branches were huge. The only issue that I had is that one of these huge branches that came from like this area here, just fell straight on the tomato plant. So I kind of damaged it. I think it'll be fine. It's just it got damaged along the way. So I thought I'd just be upfront and honest about that with you guys. The eggplant and the zucchini I ended up planting in the raised bed with the tomatoes, and they seem to be loving it. You guys, I should have thought about this when I was planting that, like the food scraps inside of the no-dig pile. I've got a tomato plant growing and I have no idea like what I ate that had tomatoes. Do you see this? This here, this is a tomato. What the heck? And then here's some chives. I mean, it's just the garden's going crazy. You can't trust anybody out here. I had to completely replace the soil and the seeds on these seed starters. It's a whole story, but just listen. We had a huge flood, a huge amount of storms. They just rolled in out of nowhere, super rude. Right here on the lip of my roof, there's not much of a... Like the rain is still gonna hit you if you're on the edge of the porch. And the seed starting kits were on the edge of the porch. So guess what? Like, I woke up, or it was like late at night, one of the two, I don't remember exactly which, but when I came outside, all of the seed starting kits were almost completely overfilled. And not only were they completely overfilled, they were like running over, right? So there was like a small amount of soil that was on the side of my porch here. My suspicion is that, number one, the seeds got waterlogged. Number two, either the seeds came out at that time or they were just murdered when they were too young. I'm not sure. Anyway, long story short, there was no germination out of those things. I shouldn't say no germination. There was some germination, and it was the eggplant and the California Wonder. Every time that I try to start them, they come out for me, which is great. But it's not a great measure for the quality of like the growing environment. I always have like a lot of success starting those. They don't grow past the starting phase, but I have a lot of success like getting there. I put those in a separate container in the raised garden. So that's cool. And they're still there. But for the entire seed starting kit, Army over here, I threw away all of the previous soil. I didn't throw it in the trash. I'm using it in my garden. I'm just saying that I threw it in a different container and pretty much restart the process. I got a seed starting specific mixture, which is supposed to be something that it's lighter, it's fluffier, it probably has peat moss, which, you know, that's like morally gray or whatever, but it does. And it's supposed to be really, really good for starting seeds. And right now I'm just like, girl, I don't have time to play games. I'm like, these seeds need to come out. No results yet, but stay tuned. We'll get there. We'll get there. You can see these roots looking pretty rowdy.
I want to fight you.
Well, that's called root bounding. The roots just keep growing and growing and growing and stronger and bigger. And so what ends up happening is that the root knot kind of tangles up on itself, and then the roots don't know how to escape once you transplant them.
I'm so scared right now.
A good way to combat that is to take it out. Some people cut the winding portions on the bottom. They cut like 4 quadrants, and then they kind of open it up, then put it in the ground that way. We're gonna try to break it up. Squeeze on the bottom and squeeze in the midsection. And then what that's gonna do is allow us to kind of easily take it out. Yeah, so if you see, check it out. Came out all together. You can see that root bounding here on the bottom. So like I said, you can clip that. I personally am not going to do that. I'm just gonna kind of untangle them and try to not break as many as I can, and then spread them out just on the outer portion. And then once that's done, we're gonna plant it here or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I did end up pulling some of the roots off. If you can see, this thing was just like totally root bound and just solid. And so every time I was trying to squeeze it apart, it was just kind of like squishing and squishing and squishing like a sponge. But now I've gotten it pretty much where I want it. When a plant is this severely root bound and overwatered, I personally take the time to prune it pretty hardcore. So I'm gonna lollipop it essentially, which means I'm going to take off pretty much everything up until the very, very top nodes and leaves. What that's gonna do is going to help this thing recover, it's gonna be a net benefit to kind of damage it now in the interest of producing later. I put it here right next to Miss Pomegranate.
Thank you.
Next to the other jalapenos, which are right here. Once it's dried out a little bit, we can worry about the compost and putting the mulch on top of it. That way we can maintain the moisture when we want it. But right now, we want it to dry out. So currently I'm dying. Right now I'm tired and I'm cranky. So now I want to go home, which is in there. So I'm gonna do that. Okay.